Hey, what's up? It's Tati and I'm back with another review of Tales from the Territories, and this time we're moving on to Minnesota, to the AWA territory, one of the most successful promotions in wrestling history. One of the founders was Vern Gagne, and he also was a wrestler as well, also participated in the military as well. So this was a man who had a lot of experience coming into running in his own promotion. His son Greg was also part of the promotion as well. They also talked about how he had a barn where they would train, and how sometimes there would even be chicken shit in the ring. And it was very interesting to see how there were so many big names who's come and gone through that promotion that went on to WWF, one of them being Ric Flair. So they were very, very successful, and they did contribute to being the start for a lot of big wrestlers that turned on to have really great, successful careers. However, you know, things wasn't always peaches and cream as well. And some of these stories that were told at the table was just absolutely wild. Actually, pretty much all of them. One of the stories is actually really sickening, where if you have a weak stomach, you're not going to want to hear this story. So one of the stories they told on the show was about Mad Dog Vachon, who may have wanted to throw himself out of a window. So one night they got on a plane. So Vern had this little plane that could seat up about 12 people on the plane. He wanted wrestlers to be able to move a lot more quicker rather than going the old school way of just taking cars and driving from city to city. He wanted things to move a lot more quicker. So he did buy a plane for AWA. Although it did take a small amount of people, it was still effective with traveling. Now, there are several wrestlers on the plane, and they're traveling, and Mad Dog is getting fucked up on alcohol and popping pills. He's going to meet his fiance's family for the first time after the wrestling show, and he's nervous as hell. Around this time, I think he was like around 50 years old, so you know, he's nervous. He doesn't know how to calm his nerves, so he's taking pills and he's taking alcohol. After the match that lasted for like not even 2 minutes, he gets ready to meet his fiance's family, and he leaves and everything's okay. He comes back and his clothes is dirty as hell. All you see is barbecue sauce from ribs all over his clothes. He smells like alcohol. He already met them, so the worst is over. So they thought. They get on the plane to go to their next destination, and he is still feeling some type of way. He's obviously drunk. He's obviously not good on narcotics, and he ends up taking more pills on the plane. Now everyone is just having a good time, not really paying attention to him, and then at some point it feels like the plane was hit by another plane, which is what everyone else was saying, and they're not sure like what the hell was going on. They turn around and Mad Dog had opened the plane door while they're thousands of feet up in the air, and everyone is freaking the fuck out. The pilots are telling him to close the damn door. He's not listening, cooperating. Everybody's too scared to, you know, move him away from the door. They don't want to get sucked out the plane, so nobody knows what to do. And then he starts taking things from the plane and throwing them out in the air. And then at some point, he takes a chain, put it around his neck, and he's like hanging at the door saying, oh, how peaceful he felt, and they thought he might have would just jump. So everyone just came and grabbed him, and the pilot said, you know what, everybody stay down, because they could not get the door to close. Told him to stay down, we have to make an emergency landing. The pilot makes the landing, and when they land, there is EMS out there, there are police out there, and the police went to arrest him, but he's being so aggressive and they're not able to put handcuffs on him. And the police told everyone on the plane that, hey, there's two options. Either his ass is getting locked up, or y'all take him back wherever the hell y'all came from. And Mad Dog looks at everyone, and everyone's like, damn, we can't just leave him and let him go to jail. So they took him on a plane, strapped him down real good onto the seat, and made sure that he could not move the entire plane ride. Matter of fact, when they landed, they didn't even let him off the seat. I guess the pilots ended up taking him out the seat because everybody was so upset about what happened. So another story that was told by Medusa. Now Medusa, she personally got a phone call from Vern to come to AWA and wrestle. He wanted her to have a feud with Sherry Martel, and she thought it was a big deal. Sherry was a big name, and you know, women were not, how can I say this? They were not prioritized like how men were in professional wrestling. So he knew he was taking a big chance and wanted to have someone new in the ring with Sherry. So Medusa speaks about how they would ride in two cars, and Sherry would be in one with the guys while Medusa rode in another car with the guys. And she stated how she hated how they would get high and she's just sitting in the back in the middle of huge dudes and there's hardly any space for her, but she had to make things work out because they were her ride to and from, you know, their destinations to go wrestle. So one particular day, Sherry went to Dairy Queen. She stated that how Sherry really liked Dairy Queen blizzards, and one town they stopped and she got a whole bunch of blizzards, and she thought nothing of it because she knew that's what Sherry liked. So now they're driving on the highway. Sherry's car is in front of the car that Medusa's in, and as they're driving, Sherry comes from the sunroof and she throws a blizzard at their car. And she keeps throwing and throwing them. They're trying to dodge the blizzards. The ice cream is getting all over the damn windshield, and it's just a whole big mess. And Sherry thinks it's fun. And then at some point, Doug Summers, he's the one who's driving the car that Sherry's in. He sticks his ass out the window while he's driving, okay? And he's mooning them that's in the other car. And then he tries to get back and sit down, but unfortunately somehow his ass is stuck and he cannot move, and he ends up driving into a ditch. And everyone from Medusa's car, they don't even stop for them, they just keep going, like trying to get away from these crazy motherfuckers. And you know, these type of stories, like as crazy as it is, because they could have gotten into some serious accidents, you know, these type of moments also are moments that they cherish. And Medusa stated that when she got her first check, it was for $800, and she had never gotten paid for that amount of money before. So what she decided to do was get a headstone for her grandmother and her aunt who had previously died, and they never had a headstone for their graves, and sometimes she had difficulty finding their graves because she just didn't know where they were. And that's what she did with the money that she received from working with AWA. And she said she was so grateful for Vern for taking a chance with her and basically changing her life. And another story that they talked about was about Bobby Heena. Now they briefly touched on this story, but it was so interesting, like I really want to look a little bit more into this story. So there was one particular time that they were in Chicago. Now you guys know Bobby Heena was absolute monster heel. No matter where he went, people hated him, people loved to hate him. He was absolutely a master at being a heel. And one time in Chicago, he's having well, there's a match and he interferes into the match, and an angry fan starts shooting from God knows where in the arena. Now none of those bullets end up hitting him or anyone else in the ring. Matter of fact, there were several people who got shot ringside. So one of the ladies got shot, and she got shot in the neck. People were hurt, and They stated that they didn't have any shows there for months or whatnot, and that the person who actually shot, you know, the gun was never identified. However, I did hear that some people knew about who it was, and that person was like never like ratted on or whatnot. So they briefly talked about this, but I really want to get more into this story and find out, you know, what more happened. Okay, y'all, so let's move on to the next story. If you have a weak ass stomach, you might not want to hear this. So the guys are going over to Winnipeg. They're all in a car and they're going to the airport, and there's no stops along the way. And Adrian Adonis is like, I gotta take a fucking shit. I cannot hold it anymore. So Bobby Heenan grabs a big black plastic bag and he's like, here, take a shit in this. So he like opens it up in a way for Adrian to sit on, and Adrian, he is just like, fuck it, pulls down his pants and, you know, squats over it. Now, where things just get absolutely crazy is Ken Patera says that it was like an explosion at first, and when Adrian moved, the bag was no longer in Bobby's hand, okay? And unfortunately, all that shit got on Bobby, and everybody is grossed the fuck out. Everybody wants to leave. The smell is absolutely horrible. They don't know what to do. And it took about like 45 minutes or so to clean everything before they actually got to the airport. I mean, I'm sorry, before they can actually go travel back to the airport, because they did have about another 45 minutes or so left. And that smell was still lingering around after that, and it turned out the bag was still there. And Mad Dog grabs the bag and he says something along the line, the smell won't bother you if you get used to it. So he takes the bag, opens it up, and puts his face in, and basically trying to tell them, like, you know, if you used to smell it, it's not going to bother you. And when he moved the bag away from his face, he had shit all over his beard. Fucking gross. So there was another interesting story that I really would like to get a little bit more information about. It's a short so they don't really get a chance to give a lot of information. I think they tried their best to, you know, give the like really important facts before they start jumping onto other stories. Now, there was a tag team called Chain Gang. No, this has nothing to do with John Cena. But these two, their gimmick was like basically a biker gang, and you know, they took ideas from real life biker gangs, and unfortunately those biker gangs, they took offense to that, and you know, didn't want, you know, their gimmick to basically mock who they were and their lifestyles. So they were going to Milwaukee for a match. And prior to even going to Milwaukee, they received a letter of some sort saying, don't even come to Milwaukee, because, you know, there's people out there who's real about this biker shit and you guys are just fake, right? Anyway, they end up going to Milwaukee, having their match, and after their match, they get invited to a party at a bar. And I'm going to be real honest, that's where they fucked up. If you received a letter saying don't even come to this town, after your match, if you were going to go the fuck home or go to the next town that you're going to be at, don't even stay. So they made a big mistake by going to that party. And after some time at the party, not even too long, they started feeling uncomfortable. And unfortunately, after they try to leave, like, they block them and end up jumping both of them. Now, one of them, Jack, he ends up escaping from a window, and the police end up finding him like in a river or something, some kind of body of water nearby. Not dead or anything, but they ended up finding him in that area. Unfortunately for Frank, who was still in there and couldn't escape, they shot him in the leg, and he was never able to wrestle again. And it's like, was it really worth it to go after getting a threat like that? Like, unfortunately, had they just wrestled or even just stayed home, none of that would have happened. And obviously those are life-changing events to go through. And I really want to know more about this story. I tried looking it up, but I couldn't find too much information. But very interesting to see like how when on TV and wrestling, and when you try to emulate like real life gangs and things like that, they don't take too kindly to that stuff. Okay, so towards the end of the episode, I have to say, me not being biased here, but I felt like the ending was a little disappointing to me, because, you know, they talked about how AWA, although they're being so you know, prominent in the wrestling world, when things start going south for them, I felt like they put the whole blame on WWF. Now, I don't think that's necessarily true. They also had their own issues within AWA that led to that, you know, led to their promotion being dissolved. So I felt like they kind of, like, if you don't know much about the wrestling world, you would take it as, oh wow, WWF just squashed him like a bug and that was it. They didn't just do that. There was other things as well. So they did talk about how you know, WWF had this HBO show where, you know, they had some wrestling on there, and AWA, as well as other promotions, they talked to Vince Sr. and they were told, hey, you know what, send us some tapes of your main events, some of your best guys, and we'll air them. Now, that sounds like a really good deal. Unfortunately, what that did was made WWF look better, and ultimately WWF ended up getting some of these big ass names from them, some of them who were big in, you know, within the territory, but became mega stars as soon as they got to WWF. Maybe not as soon, but, you know, took some time. And one of those names being Hulk Hogan, who, you know, had basically gave his word with Vern. And what I thought was so interesting was that they were talking about during this time, there were no actual written contracts. It was you and me talking about whatever terms, talking about what we're going to do, whatever, and then we shook on it and we gave our word. And Greg, who is Vern's Sons, was like, Hulk was the first guy to, you know, take back his word. Like, you know, you shook on it, you told my dad that you were going to be there and whatever negotiations you guys had made, and then as soon as WWF was looking for somebody, he jumped ship. Now, there were issues that led to Hulk wanting to go to WWF, and boy, he made the best decision of his fucking life doing that. And probably one of the biggest names in pro wrestling ever. So that ultimately worked out for him, but definitely not for AWA and also other territories who also send those videos, you know, trying to showcase who they got, but end up getting those guys taken away from them. And the next episode is about CWF, so we'll be, you know, in the Florida area talking about that, so we'll get to know a little bit more. But I just feel like the way they explained the ending kind of just threw the whole thing on WWF, but there was just so much more that was going on that led to their demise, and they didn't really touch on that. I know this is not like Dark Side of the Ring or whatnot, but I just felt like that was just a little one-sided at the end. But ultimately, it was a good episode. So if you want to check it out, you might see it on YouTube by tomorrow. Somebody will post it, or maybe even Vice. It was a really good episode. And I really enjoy hearing legends sit down and talking about these moments. And I think it's really important as they're getting older to have as much people as you can to talk about these things. People like me who really love pro wrestling, we definitely want to hear it. And seeing these guys getting much older and older, who knows how much time we have left to get all these amazing stories. Guys, thanks for watching my video.